Which of the Murders at Karlov Manor commander decks are actually worth the price? Let's jump right into the deck prices. Starting at number 4, we have Deadly Disguise. This is going for $125.08. Number 3, we have Revenant Recon. This is $127.05. Number 2, we have Deep Clue C for $160.30. And at number 1, we have Blame Game for $167.07. Now let's talk about some of the notable cards in these decks, starting with Blame Game. We have Giselia, Blade of Gold Knight. This is going to make it where damage dealt to our opponents is doubled and damage dealt to us is halved. One of my favorites is Darien, King of Keldor. This makes it where whatever damage we're taking, we make that many 1/1s. Love this for token decks. Next is Lauren of the Third Path. When it enters the battlefield, we can destroy up to 1 artifact or enchantment, but we also get to tap it each turn, and us and another opponent are going to be able to draw a card, so this can help with some politics in that area. We also have Fiendish Duo. If a source would deal damage to an opponent, it deals double that damage to that player instead. There's also Tome of Legends. This is going to encourage us to attack with our commander and also have it enter the battlefield. We get to draw a card by removing some page counters and paying 1 mana and tapping this. Not bad. There's Prisoner's Dilemma for 5 mana. Each opponent is secretly going to choose Silence or Snitch. Then the choices are revealed. If each opponent chooses Silence, this deals 4 damage to each of them. If each opponent chooses Snitch, this deals 8 damage to them. Otherwise, it deals 12 damage to each opponent who chose Silence. And it has Flashback for a little bit more mana. There's Comeuppance. We're going to prevent all combat damage to us and our planeswalkers by sources we do not control. And if it's prevented that way, it deals that much to that creature. Or if it's a non-creature source that we're preventing, it's going to deal that much to that source's controller. Take the bait. So we can only cast this during an opponent's turn or during their combat. We prevent all damage that's dealt to us and planeswalkers we control, and now there's an additional combat phase. And they're goated. This is a great one to make sure combat is going to happen and it's not going to happen at us, as long as it's not a 1v1. There's Smuggler's Share, so at the beginning of each end step, we're going to draw a card for each opponent who drew more than 2 cards, and then we're going to create a treasure token for each opponent who had 2 more lands enter the battlefield this turn. There's also Trouble in Pairs. If an opponent would begin an extra turn, they're going to have to skip that instead. Whenever an opponent attacks with 2 or more creatures, draws their second card, or casts their second spell, we get to draw a card. I think this is going to be great. I don't think it's going to remain at that $30 price tag, but it's going to be great for this deck. Let's move on to Deep Clue C, starting with Adrix and Nev, Twin Casters. So this doubles the amount of tokens that we're making, which is going to be great for this deck. We're already making those clue tokens, and what's crazy is I did not know this was a $30 card. We have Benny Brack's Zoologist at the beginning of each end step. If we created a token, we get to draw a card. This is going to be great for this deck. We also have Coma, Cosmos Serpent. This is making us tokens each upkeep. It's a 3/3 blue serpent, which is crazy good. And then we can sacrifice serpents to tap permanents. We can also have Coma gain indestructible until out of turn, and that spell can't be countered. This is a great card for this deck in my opinion. We also have Tulane, Teller of Tales. Whenever we cast a creature spell, we're drawing cards. We can put lands onto the battlefield. We can return creatures back to our hands with this. This deck is very cohesive in my opinion. There's also Alondra Skydreamer. Whenever we draw our second card, each turn we're making a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. Whenever we draw our 5th card each turn, this and Drakes we control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in our hand. Great with our commander because we have a no max hand size. Academy Manufactor. This being in a commander deck is great. Whenever we create a clue, food, or treasure token, we're creating one of each instead. We also have Essex Fractal Bloom, another great card for this deck. The first time we would create 1 or more tokens during each of our turns, we instead choose a creature other than Essex and create that many tokens that are copies of that creature. This will get out of hand very quickly, so be prepared for that. Knowledge is Power. This is an enchantment where creatures get +X/+X, where X is the number of cards we've drawn this turn. And this deck gets out of hand with drawing cards, so this is a great card for the deck. There's also Farewell. This is an $8 sorcery where we get to choose 1 or more. We just get to exile any of these 4 things, 1 or more. Crazy. Finale of Revelation. Draw X cards if X is 10 or more. Instead, shuffle your graveyard into your library. Draw X cards. Untap 5 lands. You have no max hand size for the rest of the game, and then we have to exile this. Let's move on to Revenant Recon. Phyrexian Metamorph. This is almost $10. This is an artifact creature shapeshifter that enters the battlefield as a copy of any artifact or creature on the battlefield, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. So if we have something good that we want to copy, we can cover that, or even our opponent's creatures or artifacts. Sphinx of the Second Sun at the beginning of your post-combat main phase. We get an additional beginning phase after this, so that means we're going to get untap, upkeep, draw. Crazy card right here in my opinion. We also have Doom Whisperer. I think this is going to be one of the best cards in this deck. We just have to pay 2 life to Surveil 2. This goes great with our commander. Probably the one way that we're going to win with this. We also have Grave Titan, $5, believe it or not. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, we get 2/2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield. We also have Massacre Worm. This is my favorite. While it's not an expensive card compared to the others, one of my favorites because it has that board wipe, it's a huge creature, and whenever creatures are put into our opponent's graveyard, whenever they die, they have to lose 2 life. I just really like this card in general. Now onto the crazy stuff. We have Rise of the Dark Realms. This is almost what I would consider a huge price tag for a card. This is $19. We put all creatures from all graveyards onto the battlefield under our control. We also have Reanimate. This is around $13. We're going to put a creature from a graveyard onto our battlefield under our control. Now we do have to lose life equal to the converted mana cost, but for 1 black mana, this is a great card. We also have Toxic Deluge. This is a powerful board wipe. We pay X life into this, and we pay 3 mana. All creatures get -X until end of turn. Necromancy. This is a $17 card, and just to summarize this, it's like Reanimate, except now it's an enchantment that we could cast at instant speed if we want to, but we have to bury it at the end of turn. And by bury, I mean this is sacrificed with that creature at the end of turn. Animate Dead. Pretty much Necromancy, but now at a sorcery speed. We just grab a creature from a graveyard, put it under our control, but it has a -1, -0 to their power and toughness. Phyrexian Arena. Going for around $3. At the beginning of our upkeep, we draw 1, lose 1. The last deck we're talking about is Deadly Disguise. The face of the commander deck really cares about creatures being turned face up and taking advantage of that. Seedborn Muse going for around $13. We untap all of our permanents during each player's untap step. Very powerful card right here. We have Toski, Bearer of Secrets. This is going for around $8. This spell can't be countered. It's indestructible. It attacks each combat if able, and whenever a creature we control deals combat damage to a player, we are drawing a card. Love this one right here. Neheb the Eternal. Always wanted this card. In my opinion, it's super good. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, add a red mana. For each 1 life your opponents have lost this turn. We can get a lot of red mana off of this one. We also have Tessak, Judas Hellhound. It has Unleash. Other dogs you control have Unleash. Creatures you control with counters on them have haste, and when this attacks we get a red mana for each attacking creature. Orin, Frostfang. This is going to make it where each of our attacking creatures have death touch, and whenever they deal combat damage to a player, we're drawing a card. There's also Beast Whisperer. If you are casting a lot of creature spells, this is great because we get to draw a card for each one. Another crazy card to see in this deck is Jeska's Will. If we control our commander, we get to choose both of these, which is add a red mana for each card in target opponent's hand. We also get to exile the top 3 of our library, and we get to play them this turn. There's also 3 visits. I'm surprised to see it for around $5, but we get to search our library for a forest card and put it onto the battlefield for just 2 mana. So those are the cards that I felt were notable in these decks. If you want to pick up any of these or check them out, they'll be in the description down below. And if you're in the mood for more precons, check out this video right here where I talk about the 5 precons to pick up right now.